A dear friend, a person that I've seen in many actions, rallies, and speaking many times. Dr. Jon Fluxman. He's a retired GP. He's member of the Health Workers for Palestine and of the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network, IJAN. You will know them because they picket at Swiss Cottage every Friday. He will talk to us about health, the BDS movement, and the importance of being an anti-Zionist. And I want to add something else. As a Palestinian, I cannot express enough my gratitude to every single Jewish person, to every single anti-Zionist that has made it clear that there needs to be a differentiation between them both. Being Jewish is only a religion. Being a Zionist is an ideology. They cannot be conflated together. IJAN and people within it have helped us make that distinction. And the numbers are growing. And that is hugely important for us Palestinians, because it counts as a voice from within. And therefore, it gives validity to all the arguments. So I want you to continue for as long as you can.
Thank you.
In your solidarity with the Palestinian people. So please welcome Dr. Jon.
Thank you so much for that introduction. It's really quite humbling. Comrades, I bring you greetings and solidarity from Health Workers for Palestine and also from IJAN, the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network. I just want to say how marvelous I thought the play was. I thought you guys were brilliant. You know, we all know the facts and the stories, but I found it really emotional. I was getting enraged with it when you were doing the Hind Raja bit and the hatred for Netanyahu. And we will not forget and we will not forgive until we get justice. So thank you, that was really marvelous. Carry on with the great work. Thank you. So just briefly about the ceasefire, just before I get on to the other bits. For me, the striking fact that we have a ceasefire now on the same deal that was agreed back in May. It's already been mentioned tonight. So, who chose this path? It was Joe Biden. Joe Biden, the president of the people in that building. So his nickname, Genocide Joe, is really very, very appropriate. He chose genocide when there could have been a negotiated deal back in May. And all the deaths, and all the destruction, the massacres, the genocide grinding on day after day after day. Those Democrats chose that path. And we must never forget that. And I think of the young comrade who spoke earlier, who said how the so-called liberals of the Democratic Party, they're monsters. They are no better. In fact, for me, I prefer Trump to them. Because at least he's going to stab you in the chest looking at you. Whereas those bastards will stab you in the back. The liberals have always been the poison and the traitors that seduce us into thinking that somehow the system can be reformed and accommodated. And as that comrade so rightly said, that will never happen. So we have a ceasefire. At long last, there's a breathing space. At long last, the people of Palestine, the people of Gaza are getting a break, some food, some respite from the bombs and the missiles and the bullets and the terror. But we know we have to proceed very, very carefully. In any moment they could turn that around, betray it, and we're back to square one. And of course the people, as again been mentioned tonight, we're going back. We've all seen the videos, the devastation, people picking their way through the rubble, picking up discarded items of clothing, children's toys, and making the best of it. But you know, comrades, the one thing that has impressed me enormously throughout this period is the courage and the resilience and the determination of the Palestinians. I have never, ever seen that before to this extent. Their courage is extraordinary. They could have chose to leave Palestine. They didn't. They said, this is our land, we're staying. And they will rebuild Gaza and rebuild Palestine. We know this in the long run. There are painful, painful days ahead, but they will do so. So I just want to talk a bit about the health situation. We know that hundreds of healthcare workers are detained and tortured. We know over 1,000 healthcare workers have been murdered. And I just wanted to mention about a couple of doctors, a few doctors who were victims of that. The fantastic, marvelous Dr. Adnan Al-Bash, head of orthopedics at our Shifa hospital, tortured to death after 4 months, left half naked and bleeding in the yard of one of those torture camps, died soon after. Dr. Iyad, Rantisi, also tortured to death within a week of being detained. I'm sorry, comrades, this is traumatizing, but I think we need to appreciate the horror of it, to really understand the monsters that we're dealing with, the depravity, the sadism. And also Dr. Abu Samir, who was head of our Shifa hospital, who was detained while escorting people together with the WHO convoy back in November last year, detained for 7 months, repeatedly tortured. Why? Because he would not appear in a video saying that the hospital was being used by Hamas. That's what they wanted him to do. He refused. They put him on trial 3 times while he was in prison. No charges were brought, and they had to release him eventually. So this nonsense of the hospitals being used as command and control centers by Hamas and the resistance, absolute rubbish. And when you look at it, who has been using hospitals, medical facilities, vehicles and so on for their military? Of course, the IOF, the Turkish Friendship Hospital in the Netzarim corridor, which is now destroyed. There are videos of hundreds of IOF soldiers sitting down and having lunch inside the hospital. You would have seen that video recently of in Jenin, with the IOF in the back of the ambulance climbing out and shooting civilians in the street. But no, it is the civil defense, it is the hospitals that are housing armed militants. Even their own media, the Washington Post, the Guardian, CNN, are saying there is no evidence. And most recently, one of the senior prosecutors at the ICC said that those accounts were grossly exaggerated. And you know, when an official in the ICC uses that language, he's saying it's a pack of lies. Now, you all know about Dr. Hussam Abu Safia, the pediatrician at our Adnan Hospital, Qamar Adnan Hospital, who was detained about 3 weeks ago. We believe he's now in Ophir prison. He's been horribly tortured. His family has grave fears for his health. Comrades, I want you to join me in a chant. This man must be freed. Free Dr. Abu Safia! Free Dr. Abu Safia!
Free Dr. Abu Safia!
Free Dr. Abu Safia now!
Free Dr. Abu Safia now!
And we are not going to let these miserable establishment health organizations and institutions like the BMA, like the Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health, to continue with their silence. They have not said one word about him. Shame on them!
Shame on them!
It's amazing how they just hide away and are terrified of saying anything. But about Ukraine, oh yes, they rolled out the red carpet for that. We are not going to let them rest. Health Workers for Palestine and all the other health worker groups are going to make their lives hell about this. We are not going to let them get away with it. Just on BDS, comrades, the BDS campaign is incredibly important as part of the struggle against the Zionist project. You can probably hear from my accent that I'm South African. I was involved in the anti-apartheid struggle a long time ago, and we conducted BDS campaigns and isolate South Africa and so on. That was a lot easier. It wasn't easy, but it was a lot easier than getting the Zionists out. Because why? Because the West is so committed to the Zionist project. They are backing them to the hilt. Militarily, politically, diplomatically, finance, and in all the international organizations. And in our work to isolate Israel and to kick them out of every healthcare organization, what we have found is the same power relations that happen within the UN and the so-called international rules-based order. It's the same in the international organizations, health organizations, like the World Medical Association, like the International Family Doctors Association. They are Western dominated, and the Zionist influence within them is very strong. But they are very vulnerable because they are so dependent on the international connection. That state would collapse in a week if the West withdrew its support, or we made the West withdraw their support. There was a very interesting article in the Israeli media a few months ago, which said there were about 300,000 people within Israel, the people in the tech sector, surveillance, in the medical sector, and so on, who are critical for the economy. And those people, their international connections are very important to them, the academics who go and give scientific papers in international bodies. We must chop that off at the knees and isolate them and say, kick Israel out of every single international organization. Let's kick Israel out, show them they are not welcome anywhere. Where those miserable Israelis showing their faces, they're already getting this in international conferences and so on. Who wants to sit in the same room as people who support a genocide? And the Israeli Medical Association is doing just that. Earlier last week, a group of activists, including doctors, occupied the offices of the Israeli Medical Association with a big banner that said, "You are complicit in genocide." And they are. They're complicit in the torture camps, the torture and starvation camps. Dr. Abu Salmiya, when he came out, he said the doctors were participating in the torture. We are going to expose them and get them kicked out, and we are going to send them also to The Hague. They will be there too. So every profession, and I'm sure there's professionals here in the audience, every trade, you know, wherever you can, think about your organizations, raise them locally here in Britain, put forward motions and resolutions to kick Israel out. Whenever you can think about it, put that forward. And just to finish, comrades, I just wanted to say a few words about the importance of anti-Zionism. And thank you, comrades, for your words about that. You know, and we take our lead from you, the Palestinians. It's not the other way around. What really makes me so angry is that even now the Jewish voice is elevated above the Palestinian voice. That is so wrong. I understand and appreciate and agree with you that the anti-Zionist voice is important because of the context. But we take our lead from you, the Palestinians. You are leading your own struggle for freedom. and we are standing in solidarity with you. And we will continue to. As long as you are struggling for your freedom, we will be with you. So, you know, the arguments day to day in our workplaces, in our neighborhoods, in our, you know, our social circles, our friends, here we know we all are in agreement. But we all have these encounters when they say to us, the Zionists, oh, you're criticizing Israel, you're anti-Semitic. You're criticizing Zionism, you're anti-Semitic. And that's a difficult accusation to deal with, because you're being accused of being a racist. And that's hard to defend. So, and I think this is where the voice of anti-Zionist Jews is important. To give you the arguments to rebut those ridiculous statements so that you can push back against it. And Jan, we will be producing very soon literature, media and so on, which will put that out as widely as we can. So it's not anti-Semitic to criticize Israel, right? Israel is a country, for God's sake. Just like South Africa is a country. So when we were fighting against apartheid, white South Africans never said, you're being racist against us, did they? They never thought of it. No, it's only the Zionists in their depravity and their bottomless, endless lies that can dream up stuff like that. Narcissism. And narcissism, exactly. And they say to us, oh, all Jews are Zionists. No, we're not. There are huge numbers of Jews that have turned against Zionism. Look what's happening in the US. So that's a lie. Furthermore, not all Zionists are Jews, for goodness sake. There are 30 million Christian Zionists in the US alone. So that's a lie as well. Zionism has been in existence for 140 years, right? Judaism as a religion has been in existence for thousands of years. Zionism has nothing to do with the religion of Jews. And of course Zionism is an ideology, right? It's a political ideology. And to say that that's anti-Semitic is as ridiculous as saying that criticizing apartheid in South Africa was racist against white South Africans. It's utterly ridiculous. And lastly, on this question of anti-Zionism, you will all know David Miller's case, the academic in Bristol, the tribunal, which is a court of law, found in his favor. Anti-Zionism is a protected characteristic. So the law is on your side. So when you come up against this nonsense and they accuse you of being an anti-Semite, say to them, you're talking rubbish. Listen to the anti-Zionist Jews, listen to the arguments and the logic of what you're saying. So comrades, thank you for your time. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Thank you very much, comrades.